I'm from Southeast Asia, Indonesia to be exact. In Indonesia, especially in secluded areas or villages, old-time beliefs are still very much alive. By old-time beliefs, I mean things like shamans, black magic, possessions, etc. These topics are extremely common around here. Heck, even the police sometimes rely on ghost possession to solve murder cases. There's a cold case that got reopened involving a girl named Vina who was murdered. Her spirit supposedly latched on to her best friend and told the police everything. Some Indonesians, especially the modern generation, laugh at this because, hey, it's 2024 and the police still believe in that stuff? It's also pretty common here for people to visit witch doctors to get rich, find love, or stay young. In fact, I know more than 5 people who have visited a well-known witch doctor. Now, with these examples, you can pretty much get an idea of how many Indonesians feel about paranormal topics. Not everyone, but some. Alright, with that out of the way, here's the actual story. I met a girl named Lela in my freshman year of high school. She's pretty cheerful and nice, extremely sweet to me, and we eventually became best friends. We always sat together, told stories, went out on weekends, typical teenage stuff. Fast forward 3 years, and we're in our senior year together. We came up with a plan to have a sleepover at her house. Here's the thing. Layla's house is pretty far from school, in a village. It's not a primitive village. They have water, internet, phone, Wi-Fi, etc. But the travel time from the city, where I live and where our school is, and to her place takes hours. We have to go through a long road surrounded by trees. But hey, it's our senior year, and this might be the last time that we see each other before college, so why not? We agreed that I'd visit her on Wednesday. I still remember the date like yesterday. It was May 7th, 2017. She clearly told me to come before Maghrib. If you don't know, Maghrib prayer is one of the 5 mandatory prayers in Islam said after sunset. If I'm wrong, forgive me. I'm not Muslim, but coming from one of the biggest Muslim countries, I know the basics. Maghrib time, after sunset, is often associated with ghosts. Many mothers tell their children to come home before Maghrib because it's believed that ghosts roam among the living during that time. At that time, I had no idea why she said that, but being young and dumb, I just nodded. When the day came, I asked my father to take me to Lela's house, and he agreed. But we were hit with a problem. We got stuck in traffic for so long, and we weren't even halfway there yet. To cut the story short, we finally reached the village entry, though it was still time needed for us to even get to the actual village. At the entry, I remember there was 2 separate roads, the road on the right and the road on the left with this huge tree. To make it even creepier, it was already dark outside. There were no buildings or village houses nearby yet, and the only light source was coming from the car lights. The only sound was the car too. This tree I'm talking about, in Indonesia we call it beringin, but in English it's referred to as banyan tree. In Indonesia, the banyan tree is also associated with ghosts and paranormal activities, mainly because of its huge branches and all. Continuing with the story, we ended up choosing the left road because Lela told me before that the way to her village is to take the left road, the one with the tree. I swear, the ride from that point on felt longer than the traffic earlier, which was odd because Lela told me from that tree it only takes about 20 minutes to get to her village. But in all actuality, it took longer than that. At the time, I didn't think much of it, so I just continued playing with my phone, letting my father drive. A few moments later, he asked me something quite weird. How many banyan trees do we have to pass? At that point, I was as confused as my dad. Lela told me that there was only 1 banyan tree, but according to my dad, we had passed the same tree more than 4 times. That's why he asked me for clarification. I told him that there's only 1 banyan tree that we should be passing. He stayed quiet for several minutes, completely quiet. Then he suddenly told me to start praying. I was extremely confused, but I did as what he told me to. I come from a religious family, so that explains his reaction. Thank goodness, after I finished praying, it took about 15 minutes for us to finally reach the village. We started seeing the houses and all. To make this quick, I arrived in front of Lela's house and knocked on the door. When she opened it, she was very surprised to see me, but not in a good way. I could understand why. Remember when Lela said to come before Maghrib? Well, it was already past Maghrib. Heck, it was about nighttime already. She let me in because there was no way she could tell me to go back. Now this is what a real horror starts. I can feel the fear as I'm writing this. I'll definitely need to sleep with the light on tonight. Anyways, I remember her house wasn't big or luxurious as others I've been to. It was small but comforting, and it felt extremely warm inside. She showed me the bedroom and helped me put my stuff away, etc., etc. Finally, we decided to watch some TV. A little note, she was home alone that night before I came. After a while, she told me that she'd go to the kitchen to check to see if there was some snacks. I nodded and just sat there, switching channels on the TV. This is the part that sends chills down my spine. I will never forget that moment or that day. She took a very long time in the kitchen. I was wondering what was taking her so long. After a few minutes, she came back and I noticed something was off about her. Her hair was a bit messier. She looked different, paler. I don't even know how to describe her expression. Anyway, she sat right next to me without saying a word and didn't even bring any snacks as she promised. So I was like, where are the snacks? You promised to bring some. She looked at me, smiled, and then nodded her head in an odd manner before patting her stomach. I was like, you ate all of the snacks without me? She just smiled again and looked at the TV without saying anything. At that time, we were watching a quiz show where the winner gets to take home a lot of money. There was nothing funny happening, but Lela suddenly turned to me and started laughing. It was a harmless, soft laugh. I was wondering why she was laughing because nothing peculiar was happening in the show. Lela was usually a very serious person and didn't laugh much at movies, but then she suddenly stopped laughing and looked back at the screen. A few minutes later, she looked at me again and laughed, louder this time. I was so confused, so I asked her what was wrong, but she didn't say anything. She kept laughing, looking at me, then back at the screen, then look at me again, and then back at the TV. She continued doing this for several minutes, so I laughed along with her thinking she was just being goofy. I remember feeling weirded out and confused. I wasn't scared at the time because I didn't really believe in ghosts or possession. So I asked her why she was doing that, holding a nervous laugh myself. I really wanted to capture a video of her, but then she walked away to the kitchen, still in that pose and still laughing. The kitchen was dark and from the living room you couldn't see inside. The last thing I heard was her faded laughter before complete silence. I remember waiting there for 5 or 10 minutes before standing up to go and check on her. Suddenly my phone rang in my pocket, so I picked it up. When I saw the name, I was even more puzzled because it said Lela was calling me. So I yelled out, asking her why she was calling me when I was right there and she was in the kitchen. She could have just come by and just told me. So I picked it up and the voice on the other end was indeed Lela's. She asked me if I could open up the gate in front of her house to let her in since she was on a motorcycle when too lazy to get down. I asked her what did she mean by that and how did she get out so quickly. She sounded clueless and said she didn't understand what I was talking about. She just told me to open the gate since she was already close by, so I did. Still confused, I went out and opened the gate as Lela came in, holding bags of snacks. I told her the story about her crawling to the kitchen and all of that, and she told me a completely different story from her point of view. Let's rewind to the part where she went to the kitchen to grab her some snacks. According to my point of view, as you just heard, I was switching channels while waiting for her to get back from the kitchen, right? But according to her, after she went to the kitchen and found no snacks, she decided to go and buy some from a nearby store. As she walked out of the kitchen, she saw me sitting on the sofa, staring blankly at the TV. When she asked me what snacks did I wanted, and if I wanted to come along, I just stared at the TV and shook my head in silence. That's why she left alone to go get snacks. But I told her she never asked me that, and I never stared blankly at the TV. The first time I saw her was when she walked out and sat down. In the end, we checked in the kitchen and found nothing. No sign of breaking in. Nothing. To this day, we promised not to talk about it again. And we're still friends to this day. Everything that happened that day, I'm still asking myself, if the real Lela was the one who asked me to open the gate, then who was the one that was sitting with me for over an hour? I told my other friends about the story, and they said that it has something to do with the banyan tree, and maybe that there is a ghost there, and that it followed me all the way back because I came after Margaret, and maybe because I didn't listen to Lela's words at all, but I don't know. Wait, I forgot to add this too. Many people that heard this story would often come to me with 3 main questions, and I'm assuming that you would too. So I just might answer the questions in case you've already been wondering the same. Question 1. Is that village real? Is this village still accessible? The answer is yes. This village is very real and is still accessible to this day. The last time I heard about this village was around 2022. I heard the village had received many improvements from buildings, infrastructure, and a booming economy. Question 2. Did you and Lela still talk about this? The answer is yes, we do. Even though it's not as much as we used to back then. In question 3, where is the village located? The answer, I cannot give you the specific location of the village due to the privacy reason and my promise to Lela. However, what she allowed me to say is that the village is one of the villages located in Central Java, Indonesia.
Get out of my house.
Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment and let us know your opinions on the matter. If you happen to like this content, please check out our other videos. Make sure you like and share amongst your friends and family to help our community grow. You happen to be new to this channel? Please make sure you subscribe. It's free and you can always change it in the future. You have some terrifying story suggestions? If so, make sure that you send it to my email, Fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com, and I'll feature it in a future segment. But you guys stay safe out there, and remember to always be afraid of the dark.